and welcome to Abnormal Presents Touring Talkies. I'm Kamla Iyer. Today, our Sari-torial Safar takes us on an Odisha Odyssey. Odisha is a veritable delight of textiles and weaves, from the delectable tussars to the curvilinear ikats, to the tribal weaves, to natural dyes, to extra weft designs, and like the English term Odyssey suggests, it is indeed a long, wandering voyage of sartorial delights. My guest today is one such person who voyaged into Odisha and got herself lost and immersed in its rich weaving heritage. She's not an Odia by birth. She's a typical city bred girl in Delhi and Bangalore, a fashion school grad who typically started her career in apparel exporting houses and soon got bored of the industrialization of fashion. And when life handed her Odisha, she decided to make a brand of it. And that brand is Vriksh Designs. I am so happy to introduce to you today the brain behind Vriksh Designs, Gunjan Jain. Gunjan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kamla, for inviting me to your show. I'm very excited to be here and look forward to our conversations.
Thank you. So, Gunjan, you mentioned to me that Odisha just happened to you by force, by design, by accident, whatever. You're not an Odia by birth. So you decided to go there, and it was an alien land, language was unknown. And like I said in the introduction, life dealt you Odisha and you decided to make a brand of it. So tell us how were your experiences working in an alien land with new people, a new language? Just tell us how it felt.
Well, I began my career working in the apparel export industry in Delhi and Bangalore. But soon I was disillusioned with the mass industrial process of making clothes. Actually, I felt very lost. I felt the factory and assembly process of making clothes lacked the collective spirit and healthy collaborations with the makers and the buyers that I was looking to associate with. And that led to me packing my bags in 2007 to move to Orissa. So it was a conscious switch to move from designing for large scale apparel brands which promote fast fashion to working with craftspeople and to explore the idea of slow, sustainable fashion that luckily Orissa as well as India as a country still offers. I remember I was in my early 20s when I moved to Orissa, absolutely clueless, but excited to explore. Orissa was like discovering the real India. I understood the importance of cultural identity while living and interacting closely with local people, the climate, their food, language, textiles, handicrafts. I believe Orissa is a gold mine of textiles,
Hmm.
and it may take me a lifetime to discover all the hidden treasures and handlooms. You won't believe even today, almost each and every district in Orissa offers exquisite and unique textiles. From, say, fine tussar silks of the coastal belt, curvilinear ikats from the west, tribal weaves, and natural dyes of the south. I mean, one can never get enough of it. But having said that, I did face a lot of challenges as well. Like food and language were two major challenges which I had never imagined would come my way. Coming from a strict vegetarian household, I could never imagine that I would actually watch fish being cooked in my own kitchen.
Hmm.
And today, rice and fish is my favorite meals. I never had a lack for learning new languages, and I still sometimes go haywire with my Odia grammar. But that never deterred me from venturing into the interior villages of Orissa and working with weavers and artisans. I'll be honest, Kamla, in my early years, there were times I made a total fool out of myself in meetings, struggling to express myself in Odia. But what was very touching was that the weavers were always very patient
Hmm.
and helped me walk this difficult path. And I can say what worked in my favor was the patience, resilience, and a sense of equality that I always carried with me. Um, Among the other challenges in my work was to instill trust among people, since
Mm.
I was always viewed as an outsider. You know, it's like a Hitchcock film. Initially, we were skeptical about my interest in working with them and questioned my every motive, and I suppose rightly so. And then I cracked it. The mantra was to share a cup of chai before discussing work. I worked very hard on building a strong egalitarian relationship with them beyond studio work, where we could share our personal problems and celebrations together. Um, and market plays a very important role in the process of design in traditional craft. I was questioned by weavers at every stage about my design initiatives. What will happen to the design samples we are developing? They would say, will they end up in museums or government records? And would that be the end of this project? I was asked to give an assurance that these designs will convert into orders. Uh, will we get fair wages? And all these questions led me to set up my design studio, Vriksh, in 2008, where
Okay.
along with design, I created a marketing platform for my weaves.
Very interesting journey. Very inspiring too for I'm not being gender specific here, but for a woman to venture out into a new world and kind of make it her own by working with people there. And Odisha, as we all know, is so well known for its rich history of weaves. I mean, well done, Gunjan. I'm so proud of what you've achieved in the last 13 odd years. So let me tell you a bit of my journey actually. So obviously growing up, one has seen Odishas and admired them on really Diggaj personalities like Srimati Indira Gandhi or Pupul Jekar, Sonal Mansingh, Sanjukta Panigrahi, really big names. And I always associated Odisha with a sense of powerful women in powerful positions. That is like an adornment. I mean, what they adorned was very much, in my mind, the association was that. So I did have a few Odisha saris, even in my trousseau, I remember, very unconsciously collected. And when I consciously started curating my saris, if I recall, I think a Vriksh one was one among my very earliest, right? And I must tell you what drew me to it. I think at that time I didn't know much about the weaves or the weaving heritage of any part of India except Tamil Nadu, where I come from. And I somehow felt that there was a lot of traditional truth to the traditional weaving that you retained in your designs, but your design sensibilities had kind of brought some kind of intervention on that, which made it so attractive to an urban customer like me. And particularly, I'm living abroad, so I am also far distanced from the market, if you like, from a common marketplace. It instantly appealed to me, and my earlier association of seeing this with powerful women in powerful roles, I fancied myself being a corporate person. What can I wear to work which won't let me down? And that's how I got attracted to your brand, and that's how I started purchasing your saris. And I would now like to ask you, how have you managed to, make a foray into a state like Odisha, which has got so much traditional weaves, and do something and leave a mark of your own? So, could you take us through that journey of yours?
Uh, Gosh, Kamla, you bang on, spot on our Vriksh philosophy, I have to say. I think I'm going to sleep very well tonight. The, the list is very long. I don't even know where to begin from my journey in Orissa weaves. Let me share some of the collections. For instance, I remember your first Vriksh sari, one of them were the Jyoti saris.
Yes,
Um, and the Jyoti sari is a
I have
completely
it with
new
me.
experience.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And this was such a completely new experiment. So I was inspired by the beautiful alpanas that women paint on their mud walls in coastal villages. And those folk art alpanas are called chotis and chittors. Uh, what we did in Vriksh was we took those beautiful paintings and in an abstract idea, converted them into beautiful motifs. Uh, and the soft gradients that you see in gold demonstrate the time of dawn when the women weavers start painting uh, on the mud walls. So it is woven using the traditional jala technique, which is primitive to jacquard. Orissa has a flourishing decentralized system of tussar weaving, from local collection of tussar cocoons to thigh reeling into yarns by women spinners, and finally hand weaving into tussar silk saris and yardages. Uh, and this Jyoti sari falls into that very beautiful spectrum of experiments in tussar silk. Another very popular motifs found in Orissa textiles is the fish. And of course, in our Machli collection, you have one of those, the Khadi Tasar Machli
Yes,
sari.
yes, it's with me here. Take it out. This one, right? Which has got the
Yes, yes.
machlis on the, yeah. I just fell for the color combination also of this one. It is so unique, the palette.
So that is exactly what we did. We went crazy with our explorations, introducing woven shibori with fish motif in the pallu, new design expressions in the border with the Ganga Jamuna that Orissa offers, new color palette. In fact, in your Machli sari, which is a very, very traditional design, we infused new colors and softer fabric textures. Another one that I'd like to share as an example is in the field of ikat. Uh, as we know, ikat is a resist tie and dye technique that Orissa is known for, but you need smooth yarns for the process. Now, tussar silk is a very notorious yarn for ikat. And we started with simple designs and over the years mastered the art form of ikat weaving in tussar silk.
Okay.
So you'll see that in most of our design explorations with Orissa Weaves, we've ensured that the significance of the traditional design remains intact while we infuse new ideas to give it, a new life that works for an urban audience in today's day and age. It was interesting to notice in your Kanjivaram episode, Kamla, there was a mention of the Korbai weave,
Yeah.
and which is simple border, in the Kanjivaram saris. And I was fascinated to, I was just wondering that how interestingly this temple border actually is a border that has traveled all the way from north weaves to the south, the east to the west of India. If you actually see, we do find these temple border traditions in almost every design vocabulary in many states in India. For instance, look at Orissa. I remember in my initial years, one of my first design intervention was in the temple border weave of Orissa. In Orissa, it's locally called the Foda Kumbho. Kumbho meaning a kalash. And they say it is a picture of good health and good blessings. And this temple border is also woven in similar technique like the kurvai using the three shuttle.
Mm.
Um, and in Vriksh, we realized that in Orissa, it is not as popular a weaving practice with the three shuttle as it is in Kanjivaram because it takes a really long time to weave one sari. And the Kumbho border is more popular in ikat weaving in Orissa. So to work with these Kumbho borders in the original three shuttle technique, we worked on different new experiments, redesigning the temple border in modern interpretations, working on, of course, the classic Ganga Jamuna borders, um, introducing combination of silk and cotton textiles in the temple border, getting inspiration from the Kanjivaram saris. In fact, isn't there a design called the aeroplane sari in Kanjivaram?
Yes.
And so in Vriksh, I got inspired by that aeroplane sari, and we worked on a similar design idea called the Barte Kadam in the Thoda Kumbo technique. And it became an instant hit. And I learned that actually these weaving traditions have been evolving over the years with new interpretations, and how these weaving traditions have also traveled not just across villages or states, but actually countries all over the world.
So I believe that when an original art, let's say in the form of a weave in our discussion, for the sake of our discussion, meets design and a designer's sensibilities, it often gets a new lease of life, a fresh injection, if you like. And ultimately, that is good for the weaver, for the designer, and for the end consumer like myself. However, I feel in today's day and age, the terms that get used, like let's say revival or design intervention or contemporarization, these are all words which often get misunderstood or they are misused, if dare I say. And as a designer, I can imagine who has ventured into a territory very much like Odisha, which is so well known for its vast traditional heritage of weaving. I'm sure you hear a lot of this on a daily basis. I personally think, having spoken to a lot of designer friends, is I think it all depends on one person's interpretation over the other, and it is their journey of how they have discovered their roots in a very deeply traditional kind of environment. So, Gunjan, if you could tell us what exactly has been your journey.
I'm very glad you brought it up, Kamla, and this is a very important subject in craft. Revival is a very broad term and has been approached in different ways by various weavers and designers. Uh, and These weaves have always existed, but many of them we have witnessed languishing. It could be for various reasons. It could be due to low visibility, changing fashion trends, lost market demand, lost knowledge of a technique, and then lack of documentation. And sometimes I've seen the weavers have stopped practicing the art form altogether for various reasons. And even in Vriksh, I have approached revival in different ways. For instance, my first revival project was working on the original Bomkai weave of Orissa that I discovered in 2009. Now, interestingly, after Sambalpuri Ikat, the Bomkai weave woven in western Orissa is one of the most popular weaves. But ironically, the original Bomkai weave comes from Ganjam district, from a quaint village called Bomkai. Back then, I remember only 3 weavers were left in the village who were still weaving these beautiful thick cotton saris. And they weave on a basic pitloom using extra weft technique. The motifs are inspired from their immediate environment. In fact, the most fascinating motif I like is of a bitter gourd, which is locally called cholera, and in Hindi it's called karela. On asking, I learned the most of the weavers had migrated to Surat, Tamil Nadu, and other states to work on powerloom or giving up weaving altogether. And you see the story of weavers migrating for unskilled labor work over and over again in Orissa as well as in India.
Hmm.
And I remember asking one of the Bomkai weavers, Kabiraj, why didn't he go with his friends to Surat? And he simply said to me that, Didi, I prefer weaving in my house with my family compared to breaking stones or operating machines for 15 hours, like all those people migrated to Surat and elsewhere for better salaries. All I ask for is a fair wage and more markets for my weaves. And that was my starting point. During my research, I met wonderful women who shared their old Pomkai saris with me, and most of the pieces were more than 40 years old. I happened to find a document with the lost motifs and history of the Bomkai weave from one of the scholars who had worked on it in 1982. Even if you notice the sari that you have from Vriksh,
Yeah.
along with Bitter God, we brought back the remaining original motifs thanks to that documentation,
That's
like
one.
the peacock, the parrots, trees, flowers, fishes, tortoise, danti, which is called the row of teeth. We introduced new color palettes along with their original black, red, and white saris. Like the one that you have is a very new color we introduced, the
Yeah.
royal blue. I remember in 2011 and 12 when we had launched our first set of thick cotton Bomkai saris in Delhi. I was very nervous, and people would come up to me and ask me if they are bed covers. Over the years, we've been able to generate a new market demand and gradually introduce new textures like tussar silks, thinner soft cottons in this weave. In 2015-16, Vriksh facilitated a Bomkai weaver Kabiraj Naik for the Shanta Prasad and Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay Award for Best Weave from Crafts Council of India. In 2017, Vriksh was approached by Vogue magazine to showcase one design at the Amazon Fashion Week, and we decided to showcase the Bomkai with all the lost motifs that we were able to revive back. I have to say, it has been a slow process of creating awareness among new consumers. Kamla, today it's so encouraging to see few weavers have come back to join their loom. Many new retailers are interested in marketing this weave. I see women in various sari groups on social media often display the bomkai.
So, Gunjan, can you tell me something about the one which I am wearing? You called it the Navgunjar sari. So, tell me something about it. It's one of my most favorite ones from my collection.
Thank you so much for sporting it today. You look gorgeous, Kamla. So the
Thank
Navkunja collection is an attempt to revive back the tapestry weaving technique of Orissa. It's another revival project, but specific to the technique of Orissa. Um, and this tapestry weave I discovered in a village called Dhola Pathar, located in Khurda district. They used to weave beautiful cotton curtains in tapestry weave, and they call it Dhola Pathar
you.
Parda. Even 25 years ago, almost every Odiya household displayed Dhola Pathars proudly, is what I learned. But today, there are very few weavers left in Orissa who have the knowledge of this rare technique. So we started working with them and instead of curtains, designed cotton and silk saris using this technique. And for the Navkunja collection, I took the motive inspiration from the series of mythical animals that one can find in Orissa's temple paintings and sculptures like the Navkunjar, Gajasingho, Kamadhenu, and Garuda.
Right.
If you see the Navkunjar motive specifically, uh, the Napkins is actually a Vishwaroop of Vishnu that appeared in front of Arjun. It's a combination of 9 animals: head
Okay.
of a rook, beak of a peacock, hump of a bull, tail of a snake, legs of a tiger, elephant, deer, and the fourth one, a human hand holding the Vishnu's chakra.
Wow, I feel
The
hopeful, Gunjan.
it is my favorite, yeah, beads as well. These mythical creatures were designed in Indian mythology to communicate that there are many things we as humans haven't deciphered, and hence we should be humble about our knowledge and experiences.
This is
If
beautiful.
you see the border of the sari, you'll notice 10 lines of the traditional fish and rudraksh motifs, which is locally
Yeah.
called Pulya. And it is very typical border that you will find in a lot of Orissa sarees. Be it from the Bichitra Puri to the Pasapalis to all the Sambalpuri ikats to the Sonpur Bomkais to the Katki ikats. Um, the Fulya sari borders are very popular. Another of our revival attempts have been in colors. Luckily, in South Orissa, the Panika weaving community still continues to use natural dyes extracted locally from the root bark of a tree called aal. These popularly are known as the Kotpar weaves. But having said that, unfortunately, in other parts of Orissa, the practice of natural dyeing is again very, very rare. For past many years, we have been trying to revive local natural dyeing practices using ingredients like palash flour, onion skin, jackfruit tree bark. You get a beautiful yellow from that. Manjisht for red and oranges. This piece you see is dyed in catechu, from which we get a rich chocolate brown shade. And the sari is woven in calligraphy ikat, narrating the entire 40 verses of the Hanuman Chalisa.
Oh.
Uh, it took us almost 2 years to develop this masterpiece.
So, Gunjan, could you tell us what has been your most challenging project to date ever since Vriksh started?
You know, Kamla, every design collection carries its own challenges. Sometimes I feel the moment I stepped into Orissa, life has been a big challenge, but in a good way. There is always a constant push and pull. For instance, I can talk about Vriksh's very recent collection that we launched in Indonesia last year at the World Ikat Textile Symposium. The collection is titled Bali Jatra, and as the name suggests, it is inspired from the popular festival called Bali Jatra in Orissa. Locally, the festival is called Boito Bandhano, celebrated every year to commemorate their ancestors called Sadabas, the sailors who went to Southeast Asia for textile and spice trade. It was a very vast subject and a very, very difficult topic to work on. I had to dig out numerous archives to understand the influences of Orissa and Southeast Asia into each other's design vocabularies. The most common link one finds are the mention of patolas, which are broadly understood as Indian ikat in Southeast Asia. It's been an ongoing research, and I have met many scholars and visited number of weaving communities in Southeast Asia to understand this historic link. Uh, the collection offers a contemporary twist born out of this beautiful cultural exchange, reflecting distinct characteristics from every region. We have tried to design unseen combination of Orissa's curvilinear ikats with subtle hints of Andhra's chintz motifs, Indonesia's spiraling temple layouts, Laos extra weft patterns, Thailand's color palette. I mean, it's a combination of various design vocabularies combined with innovative ideas using the famous ikat and jala techniques of Orissa.
So, Gunjan, tell me, what does a sari mean to you personally?
Um, a sari is a very organic garment in which one can make a personal statement by the way one drapes it or tucks it or pins it and so on and so forth. There are innumerable ways to wear a sari, and I witness more women styling their saris in different ways than ever before. Um, in a way, it is a sign of women asserting their individuality and not conforming to restrictive traditions. I believe wearing a sari in style means much more than making a style statement. It can be a political statement as well. Personally, I style my sari by replacing the blouse and petticoat with a t-shirt and wearing the sari in a stylized langdar dhoti. Um, if you see, the sari in the weaving tradition has also played a very, very important role. It has traversed through different regions. I think the common, in fact, binding factor across different weaving traditions in India and even the world is the unstitched garment. What we call the sari here in different lengths are actually called, say, for example, a sarong, which is again an unstitched piece of cloth. I believe even a lungi or a dhoti is actually a sari that has manifested in different styling drapes. Um, My other thoughts on the sari is that there is a deep involvement and complete sense of identity of the Indian woman with the sari. It allows us to go back at least 1,000 years in terms of design. It is conceived on a loom as a three-dimensional garment with variables in pattern, weave, and structure between its inner and outer end piece and its two borders, which provide drape, strength, and weight, while the body enhances its drape. Um, until the 19th century, weavers were considered the nation's wealth, and the sari provides a continuity in weaving tradition in every part of India. The sari, as an unstitched garment, has been a unifying feature despite the variations in its wearing style in different parts of our country. And I get this quite often where people say, is the sari dying? And I think it's a myth that the sari is dying. Sari has always been the most preferred and popular wear among women in India. Only in few urban cosmopolitan cities, the youth have found stitched Western outfits as an alternative to sari. But the sari will always survive even in such spaces, be it festivals, marriages, etc. I mean, look at our sari groups on social media today. Um, it still holds a cultural significance in our Indian society.
So that brings us actually to the last question, really, which is how has your experience been in this lockdown period with your weavers? And what, according to you, is the new normal for handloom handicrafts in India? What are your hopes, really, for slow, sustainable fashion in the new world?
When the pandemic hit India and a nationwide lockdown was enforced, like many, I too was clueless about how the situation would pan out. The meaning of design organically took new directions. I wanted to extend support to the weavers beyond helping them to meet their financial needs. So I would call them regularly to know if they are keeping well and safe. I remember in one such conversation with Ajay, who is a highly skilled weaver, he mentioned about a friend of his who left for Surat last year for work. His friend has been stuck there with no food and money. We know migrant laborers in cities have faced the biggest challenge during the lockdown in India, which then makes me wonder that in this new normal, wouldn't choosing local handmade processes like hand weaving in villages help limit migration to urban cities? I realize that this is the perfect time to share these dialogues with people beyond the crafts community. And so during lockdown in April, Vriksh rolled out a social media campaign titled hashtag Weaving Our Way Forward, aiming to reach out to urban audiences. The response was quick and Kamla, it was very encouraging. People were eager to join hands. The handloom sector, while being the second largest employment source after agriculture in India, also provides us with a unique and social cultural identity. The entire process of weaving a hand-woven cloth is a coming together of people, each with their own skill sets, and women form an important part of this entire process. But having said that, it needs urgent attention of the government as well as the conscious consumer to strengthen it. Last years were already economically challenging, dealing with demonetization, then GST, and now the COVID 19 pandemic. During the lockdown, many orders have been cancelled. There is a blocked inventory of stock that artisans and designers are unable to sell due to economic collapse. This has led to exhaustion of running capital, shutting down of some of the small enterprises, piling debt. Though handloom weavers have the advantage of working from home, but currently there is no raw material available to continue work. So, some of us craft designers and organizations came together as one voice and launched an awareness campaign, Handmade in India, on 24th April. It's a first time experiment to kickstart a social movement to generate awareness on how essential is handmade in our lives and why we urgently need to support the craft community for a greener future. It was an attempt to engage with the four key agencies: the craftspeople, the intermediaries like the craft NGOs and designers working in this field, the government, and of course the consumer. And again, the response has been overwhelming. So far, Handmade in India poster has been translated in 22 regional languages. It has been shared not only in Indian villages and cities, but across the globe. Many artisans over social media shared the poster with government officials, buyers, NGOs, designers, and of course, craftspeople in their community through WhatsApp. Many crafts lovers, consumers, and new supporters were convinced of handmade and shared it on their social media. Craftspeople responded saying it has boosted their morale and confidence. This campaign has helped build solidarity across states within the craftspeople and the craft community at large. I believe this pandemic has affected us all in various ways, and we all need to come together with creative ideas to make this world safer. And I also believe making a conscious lifestyle choice or a carefully selected wardrobe could be the first step. I believe our weaving heritage already offers solutions in this new normal. After all, it's the handloom weavers and artisans who have been preserving the knowledge, skills, and wisdom of self sufficiency. We are lucky that this local practice of making clothes is a continuous living tradition which hasn't died. Today, when the world is leaning towards slow and sustainable fashion, in my opinion, India can be a leader guiding the world. After all, for centuries, the handloom weaver has continued to work from home, offering the world the choice of a conscious living which is sustainable, local, green. Definitely, this pandemic and the dialogues with weavers has given me hope and conviction to carry on my journey in the handmade sector.
That's very nice to hear because I guess this whole drive towards vocal for local and Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc. It should help the handloom and handicraft industry of India in a very large way. I'm hoping for that, and part of my small effort in trying to do this series also is to kind of help people appreciate and know what they're buying and what goes behind every weave or handicraft, the extent of effort that goes in, and to create, try and create a market from understanding the weave. So thank you so much, Gunjan. This has been such a interesting, episode where we've learned quite a lot about the Odisha weaves. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching our weekly episodes on Touring Talkies. Do stay tuned for updates on future episodes on our FB page and our Instagram page. Do leave your feedback and comments right here after the video. Thank you very much.